The stars above Karis 9 burned with unnatural light. Explosions painted the darkness in shades of orange and white, each one marking the death of a ship and everyone inside it. The battle had been raging for 6 hours now, and Fleet Commander Zelthar knew they were losing. His clawed hands gripped the command console as another impact shook the bridge. Red emergency lights cast strange shadows across his blue-scaled face. Around him, his crew worked frantically at their stations, calling out damage reports and tactical information that all pointed to the same conclusion: they were going to die here. "Third wave incoming from Sector 7, announced his tactical officer, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. 43 Kreth destroyers. No, wait, 67, they just keep coming. Zelthar watched the display screen with the calm that came from accepting death. The Kreth ships moved across the starfield like a swarm of insects, which was fitting since the Kreth themselves looked like massive beetles standing upright. Their ships were dark and angular, covered in spikes and sharp edges built for one purpose only: destruction. His own fleet, the pride of the Galactic Council, was being torn apart. The elegant Valorian cruisers with their swept-back wings and energy shields were burning. The Zephyrite frigates, made of living crystal that could repair itself, were shattering under sustained fire. The massive Thalen dreadnoughts, grown rather than built from bioengineered materials, were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. "Commander, the Radiant Dawn is breaking apart," someone called out. That was the Zephyrite flagship. Zelthar had shared drinks with her captain just 2 days ago. They had laughed about old times and talked about retirement. Now she was dead, along with her crew of 800. "Pull all remaining ships back to defensive formation Delta 9, Zelthar ordered. "Focus all fire on their command carriers." It was a pointless order and everyone knew it. They had tried every formation, every tactic in the Council's military database. The Kreth simply had too many ships. For every one they destroyed, 3 more jumped in from hyperspace. It was their way of war. They bred fast, built ships faster, and threw both at their enemies until nothing remained. A young science officer named Liz looked up from her station. Her crystalline body caught the emergency lights and scattered them into rainbow patterns. She was Zephyrite, barely 20 cycles old, fresh from the academy. This was supposed to be a routine patrol mission. Instead, it was becoming her grave. "Commander, I am detecting massive energy buildup in the Kreth supercarrier," Liz said, her voice shaking slightly. "They are preparing to fire their main weapon." Zelthar felt something cold settle in his chest. The Kreth supercarrier's main weapon was a particle beam that could cut through a planet's crust. It had destroyed 3 Council worlds already. If they fired it here, it would slice through his remaining ships like they were not even there. "How long until they fire?" he asked. 3 minutes, Liz replied, 3 minutes. Zelthar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were all different species, all from different worlds, but they had become family over the years. They trusted him to lead them, to save them, and he had failed. "Open a channel to all ships," he said quietly. "All frequencies." The communications officer nodded, and a light appeared on Zelthar's console indicating the channel was open. He took a breath and began to speak. "This is Fleet Commander Zelthar to all Council ships. You have fought with honor and courage today. Your worlds will remember your sacrifice. It has been my privilege to serve with you." He paused, then added something that went against every regulation, every treaty, every promise the Council had made. "I am now sending a priority distress call to all nearby vessels, Council members or not. If anyone can hear this, we are dying here. We need help." He cut the channel and turned to his communications officer. "Send the distress call on all frequencies, including the human colony frequencies." The officer's eyes widened. "Commander, the Treaty of Non-Interference specifically states that we cannot involve the humans in Council military matters. They are supposed to remain neutral observers." "I am aware of the treaty," Zelthar said. "I am also aware that we will all be dead in 3 minutes. Send the message." The officer hesitated only a moment before following the order. Everyone knew about the humans. They had arrived in Council space 20 years ago in their slow colony ships, asking only for permission to settle a few uninhabited systems and to observe galactic civilization. The Council had agreed, but with strict conditions. Humans were not to interfere in Council politics or military conflicts. They were to remain peaceful observers, nothing more. The Council had many reasons for this treaty. Humans were newcomers who still fought wars among themselves. Their history was filled with violence and conflict. They had nearly destroyed their own world multiple times with weapons of horrifying power. The Council had decided it was better to keep them isolated until they became more civilized. But right now, Zelthar did not care about treaties or politics. He cared about survival. Message sent, the communications officer confirmed, broadcasting on all human colonial frequencies. The nearest human settlement is the colony ship Indomitable, currently orbiting the gas giant in this system. Zelthar nodded. He knew the Indomitable. It was one of humanity's generation ships, a massive vessel designed to carry 10,000 colonists across the galaxy. It had been studying the gas giant's moons for the past 2 months, cataloging minerals and potential settlement sites. Peaceful work, scientific work, not military work. Another explosion rocked the bridge. The shields were failing. Zelthar could see it in the display, the blue barrier around his ship flickering and dying. The next hit would tear through the hull. 2 minutes until the Kreth supercarrier fires, Liz announced. Her voice was steadier now. Facing certain death had a way of bringing strange calm. Zelthar pulled up the tactical display and studied it one more time. 37 Council ships remained out of the original 200. The Kreth had lost perhaps 300 ships, but they still had over 500 in the system, with more arriving every few minutes. It was not a battle anymore. It was an execution. All ships concentrate fire on the supercarrier's weapon system, he ordered. If we can disable it before they fire, we might buy ourselves a few more minutes. Every remaining ship turned its weapons toward the massive Kreth vessel. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space, impacting against the supercarrier's shields. The shields held. They always held. The Kreth had learned to build their command ships to withstand incredible punishment. Shields at 15%, reported the tactical officer. We cannot take another hit. 1 minute until supercarrier fires, Liz said. Zelthar sat down in his command chair. There was nothing left to do. He had tried everything, spent every ship, exhausted every option. Soon the Kreth would fire their weapon and his ship would be cut in half. Then they would move on to destroy the remaining Council vessels. After that, they would invade Karas 9 and enslave or exterminate the 7 million civilians on the planet below. He thought about his family back on the Valorian homeworld, his mate and their 2 younglings. He had promised them he would return. He wondered if they would understand that he had done everything he could. The bridge was quiet now except for the hum of dying systems and the distant sound of explosions. Zelthar could see the Kreth supercarrier on the main display, its weapon glowing brighter as it charged. He could see his reflection in the dark screen at the edge of the display. He looked tired, old. 30 seconds, Liz whispered. Zelthar closed his eyes. He thought of his homeworld, with its purple oceans and silver beaches. He thought of the taste of morning fruit and the sound of his younglings laughing. He thought about all the things he would never experience again. 20 seconds, he opened his eyes. He would face death looking at it, not hiding. 10 seconds. The bridge crew had stopped working. They were all watching the display now, watching the weapon that would end their lives. 5 seconds. Zelthar gripped the armrests of his chair. 3, 2, 1. The Kreth weapon fired. A beam of pure energy, white-hot and as thick as a building, lanced across space directly toward Zelthar's ship. There was no dodging it, no blocking it. In less than a second, it would strike his vessel and cut through it like a blade through paper. Then something impossible happened. A new ship appeared between Zelthar's vessel and the beam. It simply materialized there, as if it had always been there, emerging from some kind of stealth system that Council sensors could not detect. The ship was enormous, easily twice the size of a Council dreadnought, with a hull that was dark gray and covered in strange markings. The Kreth beam struck the new ship's shields and stopped. The entire bridge crew gasped. The Kreth weapon, which could destroy planets, was being blocked by this unknown vessel's shields. Energy crackled across an invisible barrier as the beam poured its power against it. For 3 full seconds the beam continued firing, and for 3 full seconds the shields held. Then the beam shut off. The Kreth supercarrier's weapon exhausted. The unknown ship rotated slowly, deliberately, until it was facing the Kreth fleet. Lights began appearing along its hull, hundreds of them, each one a weapon coming online. What is that? Someone on the bridge whispered. Liz was frantically checking her instruments. her crystalline fingers moving across her console in a blur. "I am reading the ship's identification beacon. It is the human colony ship Indomitable. But that is impossible. That cannot be a colony ship. The weapon's signature alone is more powerful than our entire fleet combined." Zelthar stared at the display. "Colony ship?" That vessel looked nothing like the peaceful exploration ships the humans had shown the Council. It looked like it had been built for one purpose only: war. A transmission came through on the common frequency. The voice was female, speaking in the human language that the Council's computers automatically translated. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human colonial survey vessel Indomitable. We received your distress call, Commander Zelthar. Apologies for the delayed response. We needed a few minutes to drop our external civilian modules and prepare for combat." There was a pause, and then the voice continued with an edge that sent chills down Zelthar's spine. "Attention, Kreth Dominion Fleet. You are ordered to cease fire and withdraw from this system immediately. This is your only warning." The Kreth response came quickly. It was a harsh clicking sound, aggressive and mocking. The translation scrolled across Zelthar's display. "Humans, we have heard of you. Weak, soft. You hide behind treaties and play at peace. You are not warriors. Stand aside or be destroyed with the others." There was a long silence. Then Captain Vasquez spoke again, and this time there was something in her voice that reminded Zelthar of the predators on his homeworld, the ones that hunted in the dark. "We gave you a warning. You declined. Very well. Let me introduce you to humanity's other face. The one we tried very hard to leave behind. The one we hoped we would never have to show the galaxy." Another pause. "Indomitable to all Council ships. Get clear of the combat zone. This is about to get messy." The human ship began to move forward, accelerating toward the Kreth fleet with shocking speed. Zelthar watched, unable to look away, as the Indomitable charged directly at over 500 enemy warships. Alone. And as it moved, every weapon on its hull began to fire. 20 minutes earlier, aboard the human vessel Indomitable, Captain Elena Vasquez had been drinking coffee in her ready room when the distress call came through. She was reading reports about the gas giant's third moon, which showed promising deposits of rare minerals. Boring work, safe work, the kind of work humanity was supposed to be doing in Council space. Then her door chimed. "Come in," Elena said, setting down her cup. Her first officer, Commander James Chen, entered quickly. His face was tight with tension. "Captain, we have received a priority distress call on emergency frequencies. It is from the Council fleet. They are under heavy attack from Kreth forces at Karis 9. Elena sat up straight. Karis 9 was the inhabited planet on the other side of the gas giant. They had visited it briefly to register their presence in the system as required by Council law. She remembered meeting the planetary governor, a nervous little creature that looked like a purple rabbit. "Nice enough." "The Council fleet?" "That is Admiral-level command. What are they doing asking us for help?" Elena asked. "From the transmission, it sounds like they are dying, Captain," Chen replied. He pulled up a holographic display in the air between them. It showed the tactical situation at Karis 9. Even without military training, it was clear the Council was being slaughtered. Elena stood and walked closer to the display, studying it. Her dark eyes moved across the image, counting ships, calculating distances, analyzing the Kreth formation. Old instincts were waking up, instincts she had tried to bury for 20 years. "Show me the exact message," she said quietly. Chen played the audio. Fleet Commander Zelthar's voice filled the room, translated into English by the ship's computer. Elena listened to the whole thing, hearing the resignation in the alien commander's voice. The acceptance of death, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would answer. When it ended, Elena stood silent for a long moment. "Captain," Chen prompted. "Call a senior staff meeting. Immediately. Conference room A. Everyone drops what they are doing and gets there in 5 minutes," Elena ordered. "Yes, ma'am," Chen said and left quickly. Elena walked to her window and looked out at the gas giant below. It was beautiful, swirling with storms of orange and gold, each storm large enough to swallow Earth whole. She had been enjoying the peace of scientific exploration. No combat, no death, no hard decisions that kept her awake at night. But she was not just a colony ship captain. None of them were just colonists. That had been humanity's quiet lie to the galaxy. The Council wanted to believe humans were peaceful scientists now, reformed from their violent ways. And humanity had been happy to let them believe it, because it was easier than explaining the truth. 5 minutes later, Elena walked into the conference room. Her senior staff were already there, sitting around the long table. Chief Engineer Martinez, Science Officer Okonkwo, Medical Officer Dr. Reeves, Tactical Officer Lieutenant Park, and Commander Chen. They all looked at her expectantly. "You all heard the distress call from the Council fleet," Elena began without sitting down. "They are losing badly. Current projections show total fleet destruction in under 3 minutes. After that, the Kreth will invade Karis 9 and kill or enslave 7 million civilians. We are bound by the Treaty of Non-Interference," Dr. Reeves said immediately. She was older, with gray hair and sharp eyes. "We cannot get involved in Council military actions." "I am aware of the treaty, Doctor," Elena replied. "I am also aware that over 500 Council military personnel are about to die, followed by 7 million civilians. The Kreth do not take prisoners. They take slaves. Those who cannot work are killed." Lieutenant Park leaned forward. She was young, Korean-American, with her black hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Captain, if we intervene, we will be violating our agreement with the Council. They could expel us from their space, revoke our colony rights." "True," Elena acknowledged. "On the other hand, if we do nothing, we will be safe and comfortable while millions die, knowing we could have helped." Silence fell over the room. Elena could see them all thinking, weighing the options, struggling with the decision. Finally, Chief Engineer Martinez spoke up. He was a big man with calloused hands and a thick Mexican accent. "Captain, I have to ask. Can we even help? I mean, the Indomitable is not really a colony ship, we all know that, but we are still just one vessel against their entire fleet." Elena smiled thinly. "That depends. How long would it take to drop the civilian modules and go to full combat configuration?" Martinez blinked. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "If we rush it, maybe 10 minutes. And weapons? All primary and secondary systems are functional. We have been running maintenance on them every week, even though the Council thinks we do not have any weapons. Railguns are ready. Missile pods are loaded. Electronic warfare suite is operational. Point defense is online." Martinez's smile grew wider. "She will fly, Captain, and she will bite hard." Elena looked around the table at each of them. "This is not my decision alone. The treaty says we cannot interfere. If we do this, we are ending humanity's observer status. We are involving ourselves in galactic warfare. The Council might not thank us. They might fear us instead. Everything could change. Or we could stay hidden behind our gas giant and pretend we heard nothing, Doctor," Reeves said quietly. "Is that who we are now?" "That is the question, is it not?" Elena replied. "We spent the last 20 years trying to convince the galaxy we are peaceful, that we have changed from the violent species we were. We worked hard to build that reputation. This will shatter it." Science Officer Okonkwo, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. He was Nigerian, with a deep voice and careful way of speaking. "Captain, I came on this mission because I believed humanity could be better than our history, that we could explore instead of conquer, learn instead of fight. But I also believe that being better does not mean being passive when others suffer. Peace is not the same as cowardice." "Well said," Commander Chen agreed. "I vote we help them." "As do I," Martinez added. "And I," said Lieutenant Park. Dr. Reeves sighed. "I suppose I cannot let you all become heroes without medical support. I vote yes as well." Elena looked at Okonkwo. "Science Officer?" "Yes, Captain. Let us show them what humanity can do when we choose to fight." Elena nodded slowly. "Unanimous then. Commander Chen, sound general quarters. All personnel to battle stations. Martinez, start dropping the civilian modules. I want full combat configuration in 8 minutes. 8? Martinez said. I said 10. Then you better hurry, Elena replied with a slight smile. The senior staff scattered to their duties. Within seconds, alarms began blaring throughout the massive ship. The Indomitable had been designed to look like a peaceful colony vessel from the outside. Huge rotating habitat rings for colonists, massive greenhouse domes, scientific laboratories, all the equipment needed for establishing a new human settlement. But underneath all that civilian equipment was something else entirely. A warship, one of humanity's most advanced combat vessels disguised and hidden in plain sight. The Council had asked humanity to promise they would not bring military ships into Council space. Humanity had agreed. They had brought colony ships instead. The Council had never asked what was underneath the colony equipment. Humanity had not volunteered the information. It was not technically a lie, but it was not exactly the truth either. Elena made her way to the bridge, which was already transforming. Panels were sliding back to reveal additional tactical displays. Weapon control stations were rising from the floor. The peaceful exploration bridge was becoming a combat command center. "Captain on the bridge," someone called out, and the crew snapped to attention. "At ease. Status report," Elena ordered, settling into her command chair. Lieutenant Park was at the tactical station now, her fingers flying across the controls. "All weapon systems coming online. Running final diagnostics now. Shields at full power. Point defense grid activating. Navigation, plot a course to Karis 9, maximum combat speed," Elena ordered. The navigation officer, a young man named Thompson, looked up from his console. "Ma'am, at maximum combat speed we will arrive in approximately 10 minutes. But the Council fleet will be destroyed in 3. I am aware, Mr. Thompson. However, we need 8 minutes to finish our transformation, and I would prefer not to arrive half-dressed to a battle. Plot the course." "Yes, ma'am." Elena pulled up the tactical display on her command chair's armrest. She studied the Kreth fleet composition, their formation, their weapon signatures. Everything was being recorded by long-range sensors. She began formulating a battle plan, running scenarios in her head. The Kreth had numbers, but they fought in predictable patterns. Swarm tactics, overwhelming force. No subtlety. Humanity had spent 10,000 years fighting wars. They had learned a few things. "Time to full combat configuration?" Elena asked. 6 minutes, Captain," Martinez replied over the comm. "We are moving faster than planned. Turns out the crew is very motivated." Elena allowed herself a small smile. Her crew were all volunteers. They had all signed up knowing the truth about the Indomitable. They were colonists, yes, scientists and farmers and teachers, but they were also veterans, every single one of them. People who had served in Earth's military during the Consolidation Wars and earned the right to start over on a new world. The Council thought humanity had given up war. They had not. They had just gotten better at hiding it. 5 minutes to combat configuration, Martinez updated. On the tactical display, Elena watched the Council fleet dying. Ships were being destroyed every few seconds. She watched the Kreth supercarrier charging its main weapon. She calculated the firing time and the target. Fleet Commander Zelthar's flagship. "Mr. Thompson, I need you to calculate a very precise jump," Elena said. "The moment we finish transformation, I want us to exit stealth exactly between the Council flagship and that Kreth supercarrier's weapon trajectory." Thompson's eyes widened. "Ma'am, that will be extremely close to the beam path. If our shields fail, they will not fail. Calculate the jump." "Yes, ma'am." 2 minutes to combat configuration, Martinez called out. Elena stood and walked to the front of the bridge, looking out at the gas giant. Soon they would leave its shadow and enter the battle. She thought about her orders, about the choice they had made. There would be consequences. The Council would demand explanations. Other species would ask questions humanity had avoided for 20 years. But 7 million people would live. That was worth the price. 1 minute to combat configuration. "All weapons ready, Captain," Park reported. "We are fully armed and dangerous." "Shields at maximum," added the defensive systems officer. "Stealth system holding steady," said another crew member. 30 seconds. Elena returned to her chair and strapped in. "Helm, the moment Martinez gives the word, execute the jump to Karis 9. Tactical. The second we drop stealth, I want full sensor sweep and target acquisition on all Kreth vessels. Communications, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies." The bridge crew acknowledged their orders. 10 seconds, Martinez said. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Combat configuration complete. All civilian modules detached. "We are a warship now, Captain." "Execute jump, now." The Indomitable vanished from the gas giant's orbit and reappeared in the middle of a battlefield, directly in the path of a weapon that could destroy planets, shields blazing as they caught the full force of the Kreth supercarrier's beam. And Elena Vasquez smiled, because finally, after 20 years of pretending to be something they were not, humanity was going to show the galaxy what they really were. Predators. The Kreth fleet commander stood in the central chamber of the supercarrier, watching through multiple eyes as the strange new ship materialized in the battlefield. Its insectoid mind processed information differently than most species. Where others saw one scene, the Kreth saw hundreds of angles simultaneously, a composite image built from the vision of dozens of drones linked to its consciousness. The new ship was large. The new ship had blocked the superweapon. These were problems, but problems could be solved by applying more force. This was the Kreth way. This had always been the Kreth way. All vessels target the human ship. Destroy it, the commander clicked out the order, and 500 warships turned their weapons toward the Indomitable. Aboard the Council flagship, Zelthar watched in horror as thousands of weapons locked onto the human vessel. "They are going to obliterate it. One ship cannot stand against that much firepower." Liz was still at her science station, her crystalline body shimmering with reflected light from the displays. "Commander, the human ship is moving. Its acceleration is... That should not be possible. It is moving like a fighter craft, not a capital ship." She was right. The massive human warship suddenly accelerated forward, not away from the Kreth fleet but toward it. The ship moved with an agility that defied its size, rolling and twisting through space as the first wave of Kreth weapons fire reached it. Most of the shots missed entirely. The Kreth had aimed where the ship was, not where it would be. The few weapons that did connect struck shields that seemed impossibly strong. Energy beams splashed across invisible barriers and dissipated. Missiles detonated against the shields without penetrating. Then the Indomitable began firing back. The first weapons to fire were unlike anything in the Council's arsenal. They were railguns, magnetic accelerators that launched solid metal slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. No energy signature to track, no missile to shoot down, just solid tungsten rods moving so fast they were nearly invisible. The first rod hit a Kreth destroyer dead center. The ship's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against solid matter moving at that velocity. The rod punched through the hull, through the interior, and out the other side. The destroyer broke in half, atmosphere venting in frozen clouds. 3 more destroyers died in the next 2 seconds. "What kind of weapon is that?" Zelthar breathed. "Kinetic projectiles," Liz said, her voice full of wonder and fear. "Solid matter accelerated to extreme velocities." "It is so simple, so primitive. Why did we never think to use something like that?" Because it was barbaric, Zelthar thought. Council weapons were elegant, energy-based, designed to disable shields and electronics before destroying the ship itself. It gave enemies a chance to surrender. It was civilized. The human weapons were not civilized. They were designed to kill, nothing more. The Indomitable fired again, and this time it launched missiles. But these were not like Council missiles that flew in straight lines toward their targets. These missiles twisted and turned independently, each one making its own decisions, dodging defensive fire with an intelligence that suggested they were not just weapons but thinking machines. 6 missiles reached their targets. 6 Kreth cruisers exploded. "All Council ships withdraw to minimum safe distance," Zelthar ordered. "Give the humans room to work." His remaining vessels began pulling back, opening up the battlefield. The Kreth fleet swarmed forward to fill the gap, surrounding the Indomitable on all sides. From Zelthar's perspective, it looked like the human ship was being swallowed by a cloud of enemy vessels. Then something strange happened. The Kreth ships began losing communication with each other. Their coordination, always their greatest strength, started breaking down. Ships fired on positions where their allies had been moments before. Formation discipline collapsed. Some vessels stopped moving entirely, as if their crews had simply fallen asleep. "What is happening to them?" Zelthar asked. Liz checked her readings, confusion crossing her crystalline features. "I am detecting massive electromagnetic interference centered on the human ship. It is broadcasting some kind of jamming signal across multiple frequencies. But it is more than jamming. It is actively attacking their computer systems, their navigation, their communications, even their life support in some cases. Electronic warfare," Zelthar said softly. They are not just fighting with weapons. They are fighting with information. The Indomitable continued its deadly dance through the Kreth fleet. It did not fight like a council ship, holding position and trading fire until shields failed. It fought like a living thing, constantly moving, never in the same place twice. Its weapons fired from unexpected angles. Its movements seemed random but were actually carefully calculated, and it was winning. A Kreth battle group of 20 ships moved to surround the Indomitable, cutting off its escape routes. The human ship did not try to escape. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the largest ship in the group, a heavy cruiser. At the last possible moment, the Indomitable fired its main engines in reverse, bleeding off speed in a maneuver that should have torn the ship apart from the G-forces. The Kreth cruiser, unable to stop its own momentum, slammed into 3 of its own support ships. The collision destroyed all 4 vessels. They are using the Kreth's numbers against them, Liz said in amazement. In close quarters with so many ships, the Kreth cannot fire without risking hitting their own forces. But the human ship is small enough and fast enough to maneuver between them. A transmission came through from the Indomitable. Captain Vasquez's voice was calm, almost conversational. "Council flagship, this is Captain Vasquez. You might want to cover your sensors for the next few seconds. This is going to be bright." "What does she mean?" Zelthar started to ask, but then the human ship fired something new. Dozens of small objects shot out from the Indomitable in all directions. For a moment, nothing happened. Then each object detonated in a flash of light so intense that it overwhelmed every visual sensor on the Council flagship. Zelthar's screen went white. Emergency filters kicked in, but not before the brightness seared after images into his eyes. When the sensors came back online, 50 Kreth ships were drifting dead in space, their systems completely fried by electromagnetic pulse. The crews were probably still alive, but their ships were nothing more than floating metal coffins. "Flashbang. Grenades," Liz said, reading the weapon's signature. "But scaled up to affect entire warships. That is, I do not even know how to classify that." The Kreth fleet was starting to lose cohesion now. They had lost over 100 ships in just a few minutes. The survivors were pulling back, trying to establish a new formation outside the Indomitable's immediate range. It was a smart move, one that would let them use their numbers advantage without getting caught in close quarters again. But Captain Vasquez apparently had no intention of letting them regroup. "All council ships, you are going to want to move away from the asteroid belt region designated Charlie 7. Vasquez's voice came through again. "We are about to make a mess." Zelthar pulled up the navigation chart. Charlie 7 was an asteroid field between their current position and the Kreth fleet's new formation point. There were thousands of asteroids there, ranging from small rocks to mountain-sized chunks of stone and ice. The Indomitable changed course, heading directly for the asteroid field at full speed. The Kreth fleet followed, trying to cut off the human ship before it could use the asteroids for cover. They were too slow. The Indomitable reached the asteroid field first and dove into it. The Kreth fleet entered the field from multiple angles, trying to surround their prey. Ships wove between asteroids, sensors straining to track the human vessel. Then the Indomitable fired on the asteroids themselves. Railgun shots and missiles slammed into the largest asteroids, not destroying them but changing their trajectories. Massive rocks began moving, pushed by the impacts, creating a deadly chain reaction. Asteroids collided with other asteroids. The entire field became a storm of moving debris. The Kreth ships, built for open space combat, could not maneuver fast enough. Asteroids the size of buildings slammed into hulls at high velocity. Ships that dodged one rock crashed into another. Within minutes, 70 more Kreth vessels were destroyed, and the survivors were desperately trying to escape the field. The Indomitable emerged from the opposite side of the asteroid field completely undamaged. "They are thinking three-dimensionally," Zelthar said in wonder. "They are not just fighting the enemy ships, they are using the entire battlefield as a weapon. The asteroids, the debris from destroyed ships, even the enemy vessels themselves. Everything is a tool." On his display, he watched as the human ship fired a missile that appeared to miss its target completely. The missile flew past a Kreth destroyer and kept going. The Kreth ship began turning to pursue the Indomitable, clearly thinking it was safe. Then the missile turned around, coming back from behind where the Kreth ship's defenses were weakest, and struck the engines. The destroyer exploded. "Their missiles can think," Liz said. "They wait for the optimal moment to strike. They coordinate with each other. They learn from their environment. This is not just technology. This is artificial intelligence on a level we have never seen." The Kreth fleet was down to about 350 ships now. They had lost almost a third of their forces to a single enemy vessel. But they were Kreth. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. They had only one strategy: overwhelm through numbers. The Kreth supercarrier, which had been hanging back and letting its smaller ships do the fighting, now moved forward. It was massive, 10 times the size of the Indomitable, with weapons that could destroy fleets. Around it clustered 100 of the remaining Kreth ships, forming a protective shell. The supercarrier's main weapon began charging again. "Captain, Vasquez, the Kreth supercarrier is preparing to fire its primary weapon," Zelthar transmitted. "At this range it will not miss." "I know," Vasquez replied. "We are tracking it. Do not worry, Commander. We have a plan for that." "What plan could possibly work against that weapon?" Zelthar muttered. He got his answer moments later. The Indomitable stopped running. It simply halted in space, turned to face the supercarrier directly, and began charging its own weapons. Not the railguns or missiles. Something else. Energy readings were spiking across multiple spectrums. The human ship was gathering power, lots of it, channeling it into something at the front of the vessel. "What are they doing?" Liz asked. "If they try to match firepower with the supercarrier, they will lose. That ship is 10 times their size." The Kreth supercarrier finished charging. The massive weapon at its bow glowed with deadly light. Around it, the protective fleet of Kreth ships moved into position to prevent any last-minute attacks on their flagship. Then Captain Vasquez's voice came through one more time, and there was something different in her tone now. Something hard and cold and final. "Commander Zelthar, I need you to do me a favor. If we do not survive this, please tell the Council that we tried to do this the clean way. We tried to minimize casualties and fight by their rules. But the Kreth left us no choice. Tell them we are sorry for what we are about to do." "Sorry for what?" Zelthar asked, but he already knew he was not going to like the answer. "For reminding the galaxy why our ancestors were so terrifying," Vasquez said. "For showing everyone why the Council was right to keep us isolated. For proving that humanity never really gave up our old weapons. We just stopped talking about them." On every display across the Council flagship, new readings began appearing. Radiation signatures. Specific radiation signatures that made Zelthar's blood run cold. "No," he whispered. "That cannot be. Those weapons are banned. Every civilized species in the galaxy outlawed them 10,000 years ago." The Indomitable fired. Nuclear missiles streaked across space toward the Kreth supercarrier, each one carrying a warhead that split atoms to release energy that should never have been weaponized. The Kreth ships tried to intercept them, but there were too many missiles coming too fast. 3 got through the defensive fire. That was all it took. The missiles detonated against the supercarrier's shields in flowers of atomic fire. Energy that came from breaking the fundamental building blocks of matter washed across the Kreth flagship. For a moment, it seemed like the shields might hold. Then they failed, and the next 2 missiles struck the hull directly. The Kreth supercarrier broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the entire battlefield. The protective fleet around it was caught in the blast wave and destroyed instantly. Secondary explosions rippled through the dying ship as its own weapons and power systems detonated. When the light finally faded, the supercarrier was gone. In its place was only debris and radiation. The remaining Kreth fleet stopped advancing. For the first time in the battle, they hesitated. Aboard the Council flagship, Zelthar stared at his displays in shock. They used nuclear weapons. Actual nuclear weapons. I thought humans had given those up. I thought they had evolved past such barbaric tools. Apparently not, Liz said quietly. They just stopped admitting they still had them. The Indomitable slowly turned to face the remaining Kreth ships. It was damaged now. Zelthar could see scorch marks on its hull, sections where armor had been torn away. The battle had not been without cost, but it was still functional, still dangerous, still very clearly the most powerful ship in the system. Captain Vasquez's voice rang out across all frequencies, addressing the Kreth fleet directly. Your supercarrier is destroyed. Your fleet is broken. You have lost. Withdraw now or we will finish this the hard way. And trust me, you do not want to see what the hard way looks like. For a long moment, nothing happened. The Kreth did not respond. They did not move. Then, slowly, the remaining Kreth ships began turning away. Their engines flared as they accelerated toward the edge of the system. They were retreating. The Kreth, who never retreated, were running away. The battlefield fell silent. The shooting stopped. The explosions ceased. The only sounds were the crackle of dying ships and the hum of damaged systems, and humanity stood victorious. Inside the Indomitable, things were not as victorious as they appeared from the outside. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on her bridge, gripping the armrest of her command chair as another damage report came through. The ship shuddered slightly, a sensation that should not happen on a vessel this size. It meant structural damage, bad structural damage. Fire in sections 12 through 14, Commander Chen reported from his station. Damage control teams are responding. We have lost main power to decks 7 and 8, switching to emergency reserves. Casualties? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer would hurt. 17 dead, 34 wounded. Medical bay is overwhelmed. Dr. Reeves is requesting assistance from any crew members with medical training, Chen said quietly. Elena closed her eyes for just a moment. 17 people. 17 families that would receive messages telling them their loved ones had died in a battle they were never supposed to fight. 17 names to add to the list of souls weighing on her conscience. But 7 million civilians on Karis 9 were alive. The Council fleet still existed. The Kreth had been driven off. Sometimes command meant making terrible calculations about acceptable losses. Elena hated those calculations. Send anyone who can help to medical. Priority on the wounded, and Chen, start a list of everyone we lost. Names, ranks, families, I will write the letters myself, she said. Yes, ma'am. Lieutenant Park looked up from her tactical station. Her face was pale, and there was blood on her uniform from a console that had exploded during the battle. Captain, the Kreth fleet is still withdrawing. They are at the edge of our weapons range now. Do we pursue? Elena looked at the tactical display. The Kreth ships were running, their formations scattered, their coordination broken. She could chase them, could destroy more of them, could make sure they never threatened this system again. But at what cost? Her ship was damaged. Her crew was exhausted. Her weapons were depleted. And more importantly, pursuing a fleeing enemy was not defense. It was vengeance. She had done what she came to do, saved lives, stopped an invasion, nothing more. Negative, let them go. We are not here to hunt them. We are here to protect the Council worlds, Elena said firmly. They will regroup. They will come back, Park warned. Maybe, but not today. And when they do come back, the Council will be ready for them. Our job is done. Elena replied. She turned to her communications officer. Get me a secure channel to Fleet Commander Zelthar. It is time we had a conversation. While her crew worked to establish the connection, Elena walked to the front viewport and looked out at the battlefield. It was horrifying. Hundreds of destroyed ships floated in the darkness, each one a tomb for crews that would never go home. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers. The supercarrier's remains glowed with residual radiation that would make this area of space dangerous for years. War was always ugly, but seeing it like this, in the cold silence of space, made it somehow worse. There was no glory here, just death and waste and the horrible efficiency of weapons designed by minds that had spent millennia learning how to kill. Captain, I have Fleet Commander Zelthar on a secure channel, the communications officer said, on screen. The viewport shifted to show the interior of the Council flagship's bridge. It was a mess. Sparking consoles, damaged displays, crew members working frantically to keep systems running. In the center of it all stood Zelthar, his blue scales scorched in places, one arm hanging limply at his side. But he was alive. Fleet Commander, Elena said with a nod. How is your ship? Alive, thanks to you. Though barely, Zelthar replied. His voice was strained with exhaustion and pain. Captain Vasquez, I must thank you for responding to our distress call. Without your intervention, we would all be dead now. You are welcome. How many ships did you lose? Out of 200? We have 37 ships still capable of flight. Maybe 50 if we include the ones that can limp home with assistance. We lost over 2,000 crew members, Zelthar said, and Elena could hear the weight of command in his voice. She knew that weight well. But it would have been all of us without you? Elena nodded. We did what anyone should have done. You asked for help. We helped. That is not entirely true, is it? Zelthar said carefully. The Treaty of Non-Interference specifically prohibits human involvement in Council military operations. By coming to our aid, you have violated that treaty. Yes. Yes, we have, Elena admitted. I made that choice knowingly. My crew supported it unanimously. We understood the consequences. And yet you came anyway. Commander, let me ask you something. If you received a distress call from a human colony under attack, treaty or no treaty, would you have responded? Zelthar was silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, Yes, I would have. Honor demands it. Exactly. So perhaps our two species are not so different after all. A small smile crossed Zelthar's reptilian features. Perhaps not. Though I must say, your ship is quite different from what we expected. The Council was under the impression that human vessels were peaceful colony ships with minimal defensive capabilities. The Indomitable is a colony ship, Elena said carefully. We have greenhouses, living quarters, educational facilities, all the things needed to establish a new human settlement. It just happens that underneath all that colony equipment is a fully functional warship. We never lied to the Council. We just did not volunteer all the information. A lie of omission is still a lie, Captain. True. But given what just happened, here are you really complaining? Zelthar laughed, though it sounded painful. No. No, I suppose I am not. Though I suspect the Council as a whole will have many questions for your people. You used weapons that have been banned for millennia. Nuclear weapons, Captain. Every civilized species agreed to abandon those terrible devices. We agreed to nothing. We were not part of your council when that ban was enacted, Elena pointed out. And before you judge us too harshly, remember that those terrible devices just saved your life and the lives of 7 million civilians. That is a fair point, Zelthar admitted. Still, the Council will want answers about your weapons, about your ships, about what other surprises humanity has hidden from us. Elena sighed. I know. Tell them we will answer their questions. All of them. Honestly. But first we need to secure the system and make sure the Kreth do not come back while everyone is vulnerable. Your fleet needs time to recover. My ship needs repairs. The civilians on Karis 9 need to know they are safe. Agreed. I will transmit our damage reports to you. Perhaps your engineers can assist with repairs? We lost most of our technical staff when the secondary carrier was destroyed. We will help however we can, Elena assured him. Send us your priority list. And Commander, I am sorry for your losses. I know what it is like to lose people under your command. It never gets easier. Zelthar's expression softened. Thank you, Captain. And I am sorry for your losses as well. I saw the damage to your ship. You paid a price for helping us. A price worth paying. Vasquez out. The screen went dark. Elena stood there for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Then she turned back to her crew. Status of the Kreth fleet? She asked. They have jumped to hyperspace, Park reported. Long-range sensors show them heading back toward Kreth space. Looks like a full retreat. Good. Keep monitoring in case they change their minds. Martinez, how long until we have main power restored? Another 3 hours, Captain. The Kreth really did a number on our power distribution systems. We are lucky we did not lose containment on the reactor. The chief engineer replied over the comm. Make it 2 hours if you can. I want to be ready if they come back. Yes, ma'am. We will do our best. Elena walked back to her command chair and sat down heavily. Every muscle ached. Her head pounded from stress and adrenaline crash. She wanted to sleep for about 3 days straight. But there was still work to do. "Captain, we are receiving hundreds of transmissions from the planet below," the communications officer said. "Government officials, news media, civilians, they all want to know what happened. They want to thank us. Later, right now, focus on military communications only. We need to maintain fleet coordination until we are sure the system is secure." Across the bridge, crew members worked at their stations with the mechanical efficiency of exhaustion. They had trained for combat for years, but training was different from reality. Training did not have the smell of burnt electronics and flash-frozen blood. Training did not include writing letters to dead friends' families. "Captain, you should see this," Liss's voice came through on a channel from the Council flagship. "We are analyzing the battle data. The results are remarkable. Patch it through." Numbers and graphs appeared on Elena's display. Analysis of the battle, ship movements, weapons effectiveness, casualty rates. The data was sobering. The Indomitable had destroyed or disabled over 200 Kreth ships. One human vessel against hundreds of enemies. The kill ratio was almost unbelievable. But what stood out most was the efficiency. Human weapons had a 93% hit rate compared to the Kreth's 47%. Human missiles had an 89% success rate at reaching their targets. Electronic warfare had disabled or disrupted over 50 enemy ships without firing a single physical weapon. "We have been studying warfare for thousands of years," Elena said quietly to herself. "While you were building your civilization, we were perfecting the art of killing each other. Is it really surprising we are good at it?" "Captain?" Chen asked, overhearing her. "Nothing. Just thinking out loud." Another transmission came in, this one on a priority channel. It was from Admiral Tarsus, the Council's supreme military commander. Elena had met him once at a diplomatic function. He had seemed arrogant, dismissive of humanity's capabilities. She wondered if his opinion had changed. "Put him through." The Admiral's face appeared on her screen. He was a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms, each one currently crossed over his chest. His expression was impossible to read, but his voice was cold. "Captain Vasquez, I have been informed of your unauthorized intervention in Council military operations. You are aware this violates multiple treaties and agreements?" "Yes, Admiral. I am aware." "Then perhaps you can explain why you chose to engage in combat without authorization, using weapons the Council has banned, and revealing capabilities that humanity specifically claimed not to possess." Elena met his gaze steadily. "Admiral, with respect, when I received Fleet Commander Zelthar's distress call, I had a choice. I could follow treaties and let thousands of people die, or I could violate those treaties and save lives. I chose to save lives. I would make the same choice again. You understand this will have consequences? The Council cannot simply overlook such actions." "I understand, and I am prepared to face whatever consequences the Council deems appropriate. But before you pass judgment, Admiral, remember that your fleet is still intact because we intervened. 7 million civilians on Karis 9 are alive because we intervened. Your career is not over because we intervened. You might want to consider that before you threaten the people who just saved you." The Admiral's expression shifted slightly. Was that respect? Anger? Fear? Elena could not tell. "The Council will summon you to give testimony about this incident, about your capabilities, about humanity's true intentions in our space. We will answer all questions honestly, Admiral. Humanity has nothing to hide anymore. You wanted to know what we are capable of. Now you know. You wanted to see if we had truly left our violent past behind. The answer is no. We are still capable of violence. We are just very careful about when and how we use it. That may not be the reassurance you think it is, Captain. It is not meant to be reassurance. It is meant to be truth. You can trust us to help when you need it, but you cannot trust us to be harmless. We are not harmless. We are just choosy about our targets." Admiral Tarsus studied her for a long moment. "I will relay your message to the Council. Expect a formal summons within the week. Until then, you are to remain in this system. Is that understood?" "Perfectly, Admiral. We were not planning on going anywhere. There are repairs to complete and injured personnel to care for." "Very well. Admiral Tarsus out." The transmission ended. Elena leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. "Think they will arrest us?" Chen asked quietly. "Maybe, or maybe they will thank us. Or maybe they will do both. Honestly, Chen, I have no idea what happens next. We just showed the entire galaxy that humanity is still dangerous. That we still have weapons they feared. That we still know how to use violence as a tool. Some will appreciate that, others will fear it. We will have to wait and see which side wins. Was it worth it? Helena opened her eyes and looked at her first officer. 17 people died today fighting for something they believed in. Thousands more are alive because of their sacrifice. Ask me in a year if it was worth it. Right now I am too tired to know. She stood up and addressed her bridge crew. You all performed exceptionally today. I am proud of every single one of you. Get some rest when you can. We are going to need our strength for what comes next. Outside the viewport, the battlefield slowly grew quieter. Ships stopped burning. Debris settled into new orbits. The violence faded into memory, leaving only the silence of space and the floating testament to what humanity could do when pushed. The silence fell, and humanity stood victorious. But victory always had a price, and Elena Vasquez knew they would be paying it for a long time to come. 5 days after the battle, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking out at the fleet of ships that had gathered in the Keras 9 system. There were council warships, repair vessels, medical frigates, and dozens of civilian transports bringing supplies and personnel. The system had become a hub of activity as the galaxy responded to what had happened here. And there, arriving through a shimmering portal of bent space, came the Council's diplomatic cruiser. It was beautiful in the way Council ships always were. Smooth curves and elegant lines, more artwork than Warship. It made the battle-scarred Indomitable look crude by comparison. Elena took a sip of her coffee, her third cup of the morning, and watched the cruiser glide toward them. Somewhere aboard that ship were the representatives who would decide humanity's fate in Council space. She should have been nervous. She was too tired for nervousness. Captain, the Council diplomatic vessel is requesting permission to dock. Commander Chen's voice came through her communicator. Permission granted. Have an honor guard meet them at airlock 3. Full ceremony, Elena replied. You think they deserve ceremony after threatening to arrest us? Elena smiled slightly. Chen, they are not here to arrest us. If they wanted to do that, they would have sent warships. They sent diplomats. That means they want to talk. So we will be polite, professional, and we will listen to what they have to say. And if they still try to arrest us, then we will be polite, professional, and we will decline. The Indomitable is still the most powerful ship in this system. They cannot arrest us unless we let them. 30 minutes later, Elena stood in the main conference room with her senior staff. The room had been cleaned and repaired, though scorch marks still showed on one wall where a power conduit had exploded during the battle. They could have hidden the damage, but Elena had chosen not to. Let the Council see what their rescue had cost. The door opened and the Council delegation entered. There were 5 of them, each representing a different member species. Elena recognized Admiral Tarsus immediately, his gray skin and forearms distinctive even in civilian diplomatic robes. Beside him walked an elderly Valorian female with scales that had faded to pale blue with age. A Zephyrite whose crystalline body refracted the light into rainbow patterns. A Thalen who looked like a mobile plant, green and flowing. And finally, a small furry creature that Elena's database identified as a Kelvin, one of the Council's founding species. Captain Vasquez, the Valorian said, stepping forward. I am Council Elder Shara. We appreciate your willingness to meet with us. Elder Shara, welcome aboard the Indomitable. Please have a seat. Elena gestured to the conference table. Everyone sat. For a moment there was awkward silence as both groups studied each other. Finally, Elder Shara spoke. Captain, we are here because the Council needs to understand what happened in this system. We need to know what humanity is capable of. What your intentions are, whether we can trust you. I understand. Ask your questions. I will answer them honestly, Elena said. Admiral Tarsus leaned forward. Let us start with the obvious question, your ship. The Indomitable was registered as a colony vessel, yet you revealed combat capabilities exceeding our most advanced warships. Did you lie to the Council about the nature of your vessels? No, Admiral. The Indomitable is a colony ship. We have full facilities for establishing a human settlement. Greenhouses, living quarters, manufacturing equipment, everything needed for colonization. However, we designed our colony ships with dual purposes. The civilian equipment can be detached, revealing military systems underneath. We never claimed to be unarmed. We simply did not advertise our full capabilities. That seems like deception, the Thalen delegate said, its voice like rustling leaves. Perhaps, but consider it from our perspective. We are newcomers to a galaxy that has been settled for thousands of years. We are outnumbered, isolated, far from our homeworld. Would you trust your survival to the goodwill of strangers, or would you take precautions? Elena replied calmly. The Kelvin, who had been silent until now, spoke in a high-pitched voice. A fair point. But your weapons? You use nuclear devices? Those have been banned by council law for over 10,000 years. They are considered weapons of mass destruction, inhumane and indiscriminate. They saved Fleet Commander Zelthar's life. They saved this planet. They stopped the Kreth invasion. Were they inhumane when they accomplished all that? Helena asked. They could have caused massive collateral damage. Radiation poisoning. Long-term environmental effects, the Kelvin countered. All of which we took into account. Our nuclear weapons are not the crude devices species used 10,000 years ago. They're precision instruments. The radiation signatures were calculated to dissipate within days, not years. There will be no long-term environmental impact. We do not use weapons carelessly, Council member. We use them effectively. Elder Shara raised a hand, stopping the debate before it could escalate. Captain, I think what my colleagues are trying to understand is whether humanity can be trusted with such power. Your species has a violent history. You fought wars among yourselves for thousands of years. You nearly destroyed your own world multiple times. The Council has concerns about allowing a species with such tendencies to operate freely in our space. Elena had been expecting this. She took a moment to gather her thoughts before responding. Elder Shara, you are correct. Humanity has a violent history. We fought terrible wars. We made horrifying weapons. We did things we are not proud of. But that history is exactly why you can trust us. I do not follow, the Elder said, confusion crossing her features. We know what war costs because we have paid that price over and over. We know what it means to lose millions of lives to violence. We understand the consequences of weapons that can destroy worlds. And because we understand these things, we are very careful about when and how we use force. Yes, we are capable of violence. But we are also capable of restraint. The Indomitable could have pursued the retreating Kreth fleet and destroyed it completely. We did not. We defended the Council and then stopped. We did not seek glory or revenge. We sought only to protect. The Zephyrite delegate, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. Your words sound reasonable, Captain, but actions speak louder than words. You violated the Treaty of Non-Interference. You involved yourself in Council military affairs without authorization. How can we trust you to follow any agreements if you break them when convenient? This was the harder question. Elena met the Zephyrite's crystalline gaze directly. You are right. We broke the treaty. I made that decision and I stand by it. But I want you to understand why. When Fleet Commander Zelthar sent that distress call, we had a choice. Follow a treaty that told us to remain neutral or save lives. The treaty was written during peacetime by people sitting safely behind desks. But in the moment when thousands were dying, that treaty seemed less important than doing what was right. So I made a choice. I chose people over politics. I chose action over compliance. If that makes me untrustworthy in your eyes, so be it. But I would rather be untrustworthy and alive than honorable and dead. The room fell silent. Elena could see the Council members exchanging glances, having some kind of silent communication she was not part of. Finally, Admiral Tarsus spoke, and his voice had lost some of its earlier coldness. Captain, I was aboard the flagship during the battle. I watched your ship fight. I watched you save my fleet. And I watched you use weapons and tactics that terrified me. Do you know what frightened me most? What, Admiral? The efficiency. You did not fight with anger or rage. You fought with precision and calculation, like you had done it 1,000 times before. Like killing came naturally to you. That is what scares the Council. Not that you are violent, but that you are good at it. Elena nodded slowly. Admiral, humanity spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We refined warfare into a science. We studied every aspect of combat, from tactics to technology to psychology. Yes, we are good at war. That is not something we are proud of, but it is something we are honest about. The question is not whether we are capable of violence. The question is whether we will use that capability responsibly. And will you? Elder Shara asked quietly. That depends on the situation. If someone threatens humanity or our allies, yes, we will use violence to defend ourselves. But we will not be the aggressor. We will not seek conquest. We will not use our power to bully or dominate. We came to Council space to find a new home, to learn from older civilizations, to contribute to galactic society. That has not changed. The only thing that has changed is that now you know we can defend what we care about. The Thalan delegate rustled thoughtfully. You speak of allies. Does that include the Council? It does if the Council wants it to. We came to your aid when you needed us. We would do so again. But that has to be mutual. If the Council expects humanity to remain neutral while Council worlds are attacked, then we are not really allies, are we? We are just neighbors who occasionally wave at each other. Elder Shara smiled at that. It was the first smile Elena had seen from any of the delegates. An interesting perspective, Captain. Tell me, what is it that humanity wants from the Council? Elena had thought about this question for days. Now she gave her answer, recognition, not as observers or second-class members, but as full participants in galactic civilization. We want to contribute our knowledge, our skills, our perspective. In exchange, we want access to Council trade, Council technology, Council protection. We want to be part of something larger than ourselves. But we will not give up our ability to defend ourselves to do it. The Treaty of Non-Interference needs to be renegotiated. We cannot be expected to stand by and do nothing when innocents are threatened. You are asking for quite a lot, the Kelvin noted. We are offering quite a lot in return. Military assistance, advanced technology, access to human scientific research. We may be newcomers, but we are not primitives. We have things to offer. Admiral Tarsus leaned back in his chair. The Council has been debating humanity's status for days. Some want you expelled from Council space entirely. They fear what you represent. Others want you as allies, seeing the value in your combat capabilities. Still others want to restrict you, to control your weapons and limit your movements. And what do you want, Admiral? Elena asked. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I want to know that if another crisis occurs, if another Kreth fleet appears, humanity will respond again. I want to know that there are beings in this galaxy who will fight when fighting is necessary. The Council has grown soft in many ways. We have relied on diplomacy and treaties for so long that we forgot how to defend ourselves properly. The Kreth proved that. You reminded us that sometimes peace is maintained through strength. So you want us to be your soldiers? Elena asked carefully. No, I want you to be our partners. Equals who stand beside us when darkness threatens? Elder Shara nodded in agreement. I believe Admiral Tarsus speaks for many of us. Captain, the Council is prepared to offer humanity a new treaty, one that recognizes your right to maintain defensive military capabilities, one that grants you full membership status with all the rights and responsibilities that entails, and one that includes a mutual defense pact. If human worlds are threatened, the Council will respond. If Council worlds are threatened, humanity will respond. Together we stand stronger. Elena felt something loosen in her chest. Relief maybe, or hope. That sounds acceptable, Elder. But we need to include some conditions. Humanity will maintain our own military forces. We will share technology, but we retain the right to keep some capabilities classified, and we need protection for our colonies. All of them. Agreed. Though the Council will expect the same from you. Some of our technologies are not ready to be shared, and we will have questions about your nuclear weapons. Perhaps limits on when and how they can be deployed. Reasonable. We can discuss specifics, but yes, we can work within reasonable limits. The Zephyrite delegate spoke up. There is one more matter. The battle. There were casualties on both sides. The Council would like to propose a joint memorial for all who died in the defense of Karis 9. Both our people and yours. Together. Elena felt her throat tighten unexpectedly. I would like that very much. Thank you. It is appropriate. They all fought for the same cause. They deserve to be remembered together, Elder Shara said gently. The meeting continued for another 2 hours, working through details and specifics, trade agreements, technology exchange programs, military coordination protocols, immigration policies, 1,000 small details that would define humanity's relationship with the Council for decades to come. Finally, as the discussion wound down, the Kelvin asked one last question. Captain, I am curious. When you received Fleet Commander Zelthar's distress call, how long did it take you to decide to intervene? Elena smiled. About 10 seconds to call a meeting. Another 5 minutes to discuss it with my senior staff. The vote was unanimous. Why do you ask? Because it tells me something important about your species. You did not hesitate. You did not calculate political advantage. You simply heard someone calling for help and responded. That is the mark of a good ally. Perhaps humanity is not so frightening after all. Oh, we are frightening, council member. We are very frightening when we need to be, but we try to be frightening to the right people, to those who threaten the innocent, to those who start wars, to those who refuse to stop when given the chance. As long as you are not one of those, you have nothing to fear from humanity. The delegation stood and there were handshakes and formal farewells. As they prepared to leave, Admiral Tarsus pulled Elena aside. "Captain, may I speak with you privately for a moment?" "Of course, Admiral." They stepped into a side office. Tarsus stood quietly for a moment, then spoke in a low voice. "I wanted to thank you personally, not as an admiral, but as someone who would be dead without your intervention. My crew would be dead. My family would have received a message telling them I was not coming home. You prevented that. Whatever differences the Council may have with humanity, I will never forget that you saved my life." Elena nodded. "You are welcome, Admiral. But I did not save you alone. My crew fought that battle. 17 of them died doing it. They are the ones who deserve the thanks. I know. I am having a monument commissioned on the Council homeworld. It will list the names of everyone who died defending Karis 9. Your people will be remembered alongside ours. Equally. Honorably. That means more than you know, Admiral. Thank you." Tarsus nodded and left. Elena stood alone in the small office for a moment, collecting herself. Then she returned to the conference room where her senior staff was waiting. "Well?" Commander Chen asked. "How did it go?" "Better than expected. We have a new treaty, full council membership, mutual defense pact. They are accepting us as equals." The room erupted in quiet celebration, smiles and handshakes and relief. They had gambled everything on a single decision, and somehow it had worked out. But Elena could not fully share in the celebration. She walked back to the observation deck and stood looking out at the stars. After a few minutes, she heard footsteps behind her. She did not need to turn around to know it was Dr. Reeves. "You should be celebrating with the others," the doctor said, coming to stand beside her. "I keep thinking about the 17, Elena replied quietly. "The ones who are not here to see this. They died for something good, but they still died. Their families still lost them." "You made the right choice, Elena." "Did I? I keep asking myself that. What if we had stayed hidden? Those 17 would still be alive. Maybe the Council would have found another way to win. Maybe the Kreth would have retreated on their own. And maybe the Council fleet would have been destroyed and 7 million civilians would be dead or enslaved. You cannot think like that. You made the best decision you could with the information you had. That is all any commander can do." Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "I wrote the letters. To their families. Trying to explain why their loved ones died in a battle we were never supposed to fight. Some of them will understand. Some will hate me for it. I do not blame them. The price of command," Dr. Reeves said softly. "Heavy is the head that wears the crown and all that." Something like that. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the ships move through space. Repair crews were still working on damaged vessels. Medical transports were evacuating the wounded to better facilities. Life was slowly returning to normal, or at least to a new normal. "The crew wants to hold a memorial service tomorrow," Dr. Reeves said after a while. "For the ones we lost. They asked if you would speak. Of course. I owe them that much." "You owe them nothing, Elena. They volunteered. They knew the risks. They chose to fight. That does not make it easier." "No. It never does." The next day, the entire crew gathered in the main cargo bay, which had been cleared and converted into a memorial space. 17 photographs hung on the wall. Faces of the dead, young and old. Men and women from a dozen different Earth nations, all united by the choice they made and the price they paid. Elena stood before them, wearing her dress uniform, and looked out at her crew. They were bruised and bandaged, exhausted and grieving, but they were here. They were alive. She began to speak. 5 days ago, we received a distress call from people we barely knew. We could have ignored it. We could have followed the rules and stayed safe. But that is not who we are. That is not what humanity stands for. We believe that when someone calls for help, you answer, even if it costs you, especially if it costs you. She paused, looking at the photographs. These 17 people answered that call. They fought with courage and skill. They protected the innocent. They saved lives. And they paid the ultimate price doing it. We cannot bring them back. We cannot undo their sacrifice. All we can do is honor their memory and promise that their deaths meant something. Elena walked to the wall of photographs and touched the first one. Lieutenant Maria Santos, engineering specialist, 26 years old, killed when a plasma conduit exploded in her section. Lieutenant Santos died keeping our engines running. Without her, we would not have been able to maneuver. We would have been destroyed. She saved the ship and everyone on it. She moved to the next photo. Ensign David Kim, tactical systems operator, 23 years old, killed when his console overloaded during the battle. Ensign Kim maintained weapons targeting throughout the battle. His accuracy allowed us to maximize our effectiveness. He saved council lives by being excellent at his job. One by one, Elena went through all 17 names, telling their stories, explaining how they died, making sure everyone understood that these were not just numbers or casualties. They were people, friends, family, heroes. When she finished, she turned back to the assembled crew. The galaxy knows now what humanity is capable of. They know we can fight. They know we can win. But more importantly, they know we will stand with our allies. We will protect the innocent. We will answer the call when others need us. That is the legacy these 17 people left us. That is what they died for, and that is what we will carry forward. She saluted the photographs. Behind her, the entire crew came to attention and saluted as well. Rest easy, warriors. We have the watch now. The memorial service ended and the crew slowly filed out. Elena stayed behind, alone with the photographs. She thought about each of them. The conversations they had shared, the jokes they had told, the dreams they had for the future. All gone now. All sacrificed, but not for nothing. Never for nothing. A week later, the Indomitable was ready to depart. The repairs were complete, or at least complete enough to make the journey to the nearest major shipyard. The crew was rested. The wounded had been transferred to medical facilities. It was time to go home and face whatever consequences awaited them there. Elena stood on the bridge as they prepared for departure. Around her, the crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. They had been changed by the battle. They moved with a new confidence, a new understanding of what they were capable of. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the planet below," the communications officer said. "It is the planetary governor. On screen." The purple rabbit-like creature appeared, looking much less nervous than the last time Elena had seen him. "Captain Vasquez, I wanted to personally thank you before you departed. The people of Karis 9 owe you their lives. We will never forget what humanity did for us. You are welcome, Governor. Take care of your people. We will. And Captain, there is something else. The Planetary Council has voted unanimously to name our capital city's central square after your ship. Freedom Square, in honor of the HCWS Indomitable. We hope you will visit someday and see it." Elena felt her eyes sting unexpectedly. "That would be an honor, Governor." "Thank you." "No, Captain. Thank you. Safe travels." The transmission ended. Elena took a deep breath, composing herself. "Well," Commander Chen said with a slight smile. "Looks like we made some friends." "Looks like we did," Elena agreed. "Helm, take us out." "Set course for human space. Let us go home." The Indomitable's engines flared to life, and the massive ship began moving away from Karis 9. Behind them, the Council fleet formed up in a salute formation, a sign of respect between warriors. Elena watched them on her screen, feeling a strange mixture of pride and sadness. They had come to this system as observers, outsiders, strangers to be tolerated but not trusted. They were leaving as allies, partners, friends. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again, and humanity would never see itself the same way either. "Captain, we are receiving multiple transmissions from Earth government," the communications officer reported. "They want a full report on what happened. Also, there are about 3,000 news requests from various media outlets. Everyone wants to interview the crew." Elena sighed. "Of course they do. Tell Earth we will provide a full briefing upon arrival. As for the media, refer them to public affairs. The crew needs rest, not interviews." "Yes, ma'am." As the ship accelerated toward the jump point that would take them home, Elena allowed herself to relax slightly. The hard part was over. They had fought the battle, won the war, secured the peace. Now came the easier part, explaining it all to the politicians and bureaucrats back home. She smiled at that thought. Politicians were nothing compared to a Kreth supercarrier. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called out. "Long-range sensors are detecting something. Multiple ships jumping in at the edge of the system." Elena's smile vanished. Kreth? No, ma'am. These are human ships. A lot of them. I count 15 vessels, all military configuration. They are broadcasting council authorization codes. What? Elena pulled up the sensor data. Park was right. 15 human warships had just arrived in the Karis 9 system, and they were flying council colors alongside human flags. A transmission came through. The face that appeared on her screen was familiar. Admiral Margaret Chen, commander of the Human Defense Fleet and James Chen's aunt. Captain Vasquez, this is Admiral Chen. We received word of your engagement with Kreth forces. We came as fast as we could. Looks like we are a bit late to the party. Elena laughed, surprise and relief mixing together. Admiral, it is good to see you. Yes, you missed the excitement. But your timing is perfect. The Council just granted us full membership status. We are allies now. The Admiral's stern expression broke into a wide grin. Outstanding work, Captain. Your actions here have changed everything for humanity. Earth government has authorized me to establish a permanent Council defense fleet. We will be coordinating with Council forces to strengthen the border against future Kreth incursions. That is excellent news, Admiral. It is. And Captain, you and your crew are heroes back home. There are parades being planned, medals being commissioned, the whole works. Enjoy your moment. You earned it. Thank you, Admiral. But we were just doing what needed to be done. That is what heroes always say. Chen out! The transmission ended. Elena looked around her bridge at her crew. They were grinning now, the weight of the past week finally lifting. Looks like we started something, Commander Chen said. Looks like we did, Elena agreed. Helm, resume course. Let us go home and see what we started. The Indomitable jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Karis 9 system behind. But the effects of what happened there would ripple across the galaxy for years to come. Humanity had revealed itself to the Council, not as peaceful observers, but as powerful allies. The balance of galactic power had shifted, and it had all started with a simple decision. When someone called for help, humanity answered. Years later, historians would point to the Battle of Karis 9 as the moment everything changed. The moment humanity stepped onto the galactic stage not as students but as equals. The moment the Council realized that the newcomers from Earth were not to be dismissed or managed, but to be respected and feared. But for Elena Vasquez and her crew, it was simpler than that. They had heard people crying out in the darkness, and they had brought light. They had seen evil advancing, and they had stood against it. They had been given a choice between safety and honor, and they had chosen honor. That was all. That was enough. The battlefield had fallen silent. Humanity stood victorious, and the galaxy would never be the same.